screaming this mantra. They don't want to look at the evidence. They don't want to hear the truth. There's no point in me arguing with them because they don't want to hear the truth.
So what has happened in recent years, and I understand it, especially in the last year, but probably for the last 2 years, correct me if I'm wrong, is you've got this group of people on the internet that seem to have you on some kind of a blacklist, and they're targeting you with harassment and false statements, defamatory statements, insinuating things against you, saying things against you, and any idea?
I don't know who these people are. I've never met them in person, but I suspect that they're trying to uphold these CPS allegations to justify what Child Protective Services.
And what's so strange is there's one of them is actually presenting himself as though he's someone who's for reform of CPS, and as if he's for family rights, but he only seems to be advocating for he seems to be advocating for a lot of these corrupt things that CPS is structured as, and corrupt things they do.
And this is the interesting thing, is this person really seems to be targeting me, and I contacted him. Is very aggressive, and he's not interested in doing an interview like we're doing right now. Did a very professional interview with Medical Kidnap, Terry LaPointe. You can go to medicalkidnap.com and you can check out my interview with her. And they read all the evidence, and it was beautifully done, very professional. He doesn't seem to be interested at all in conducting any type of professional kind of communication at all with me. In fact, he's publishing communication of me just asking him to leave me alone and please stop harassing me. He's published, without my consent, a phone call where I called him and I was clearly upset, asking him to leave me alone and stop her publishing that as if I was soliciting him for sex or something like that, because for some reason my single status seems to has become an issue. So no, I was not soliciting him. I do not know him. I've never met him personally. It's just, the harassment just increased, and it's almost like a gang stalking type of thing, where I've actually received threats or to perish, messages of that nature that I've published to my blog wall.
So what we have here is it looks like people that are satanic occultists have taken an interest in you, and they apparently want you to join their coven.
I know, right? I don't know. Like, that's the messages that they are sending my friends and family. They reached out to my assistant of 17 years, and they sent him and published to his Facebook wall these threats, and they are they're self-proclaimed. I mean, they're publishing it everywhere. They published it on my Instagram and on my Facebook and on my associates' Facebook. Yeah, that's how they identify as that. So I'm, and the thing is I'm not religious. I'm not religious at all. I don't identify with any religion. I'm actually Native American, part Native American. I was raised in Los Angeles, California, born and raised. But I spent my summers with my Nina in New Mexico, who is actually, my ethnicity or origins is Spanish, French, Irish, and Native American. Yeah, I don't identify with any religion, and I have respect for all religions. And they are entitled to I don't besmirch them that, but I don't, I don't be imposed on.
And what kind of threats have you received from them? Could you describe that to some degree or another?
I posted screenshots to my Facebook wall that mostly, voodoo doll pictures and join us or perish type, things like that.
And it's not immediately clear who all is involved in this group. Am I correct?
Yeah, and the other thing is this journalist who claims or identifies as a journalist. He makes so many fake profiles to stalk me online. I don't know. It could all be one person.
So it's a very unclear situation. I think a lot of people kind of can't relate to it. I mean, but this is I guess I guess this is a sign, in my opinion, that you must have done something right, because hey, you're having persecution here.
Well, it's not just that. It's not just the threats and the harassment, but it's the hacking my personal conversations with my friends and very close family, my messenger on Facebook, with my goddaughter, communications with her were published. My Skype was hacked by an attorney. I mean, just really odd occurrences.
And as I understand it, you were able to escape California, which is actually a rarity for people that are in the California court system with their child custody issues. But you were one of the last few who could escape California, am I right?
Yeah, and it's crazy because, the really bad part of the gang stalking just ended, I think, last week. And just 2 days ago, I received a signed order from the judge changing the jurisdiction to Texas. It's kind of ironic.
Well, it's I'm glad to hear you made it out of California, because I can see that must be one of the worst. That must be one of the worst jurisdictions in the entire United States to have to deal with these child custody issues. But it's got to be bad everywhere, because the laws are being mandated at the federal level using the Social Security Act, which you mentioned before, especially that Safe Families Act. And if the states want to do something that's reasonable, they want to afford someone due process, they're basically not allowed to. I mean, just a basic thing like can the father have a driver's license to get a job to pay for child support? I mean, that's a basic question, right? For how many thousands of years that wouldn't have been an issue. Now it's an issue thanks to the Clintons, thanks to the Social Security Act. We have a mandate now that all the states will have their funding cut if they don't take the driver's licenses from people. And I don't see how that makes any sense whatsoever. And, hunting licenses too, and doctor's licenses, and I guess airline pilot licenses too are all up for grabs. So this is how they, treat people. They go and they take irrelevant things and they destroy their livelihood just because they miss a child support payment.
It really is. It's connived poverty, and in all fairness to both genders, there's several mandates by the Clintons that have really become oppressive in the state of California. Have you ever done any research into who it is that actually drafts and pays for these amendments to the Social Security Act when it comes to the actual lobbying, the actual federal lobbying of it? I have in the past, and I think I've chronicled it in the Porthole to Justice. I can't recall off the top of my head, though, no.
It'd be interesting to know who's behind some of this. I bet there's a big, banking, a lot of banking group behind this, because there's big money in all this. I mean, even if everything's being done, by the book legally, according to these juvenile codes, there's a lot of money involved with the attorneys, and things are being shifted around with welfare payments and things. I mean, this has got to be one of the biggest industries in the world, is dealing with divorces, child custody, adoptions, things like that.
Well, I will tell you this. Recently, I've published some research in the Porthole to Justice. The targeting online in the last 2 years has really heated up, and a lot of it is to vulnerable parents and children in the system. And, excuse me, the American Safe Families Act is a federal incentive to, bring people, children into the system. They get incentives for that. So it applies to children like I said earlier in the interview, it applies to children on American soil as well as children at our borders. So it really has kind of become like the apple cart for Congress. And it's inspiring a lot of corruption and the grooming of children out of child protection. In 2017, the percentage of children that were being of them were out of child protective services. 2 years later, with the internet, that
Could you give that figure again?
Being groomed out of child protective services for child trafficking, has increased 2017 to 85% today in 2019. And I believe that's because of the gang stalking and targeting online.
You pointed out a story recently on, I think it was on Facebook, I take it back. I forget where it was, but it was about Facebook being sued because Facebook now is allowing advertisements that are essentially catering to people that want to traffic underage women.
Yeah, there's some statistics that I've published in the Porthole to Justice, and I suspect that a lot of this gang stalking and targeting online is geared towards targeting vulnerable system into this trafficking.
So we have even, social media companies are making money off these things. We had that Backpage scandal.
Absolutely.
That's an example right there. And how many of these children that are being smuggled across the U.S.-Mexico border, how many of these children do you think are being, brought into prostitution?
I don't have the statistics for that. I generally I go to websites like victimsofcrime.org, and there's some really good websites out there to track these statistics, and I've linked them in the Porthole to Justice. But it's the fastest growing illegal business in America is, child sex trafficking. They seem to be really working this campaign to legalize this type of behavior, if you will. And it just really, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, and to